Okay, here are 4 steps for a quick overview of how I animate a bouncy ball from the idea to the final animation shots. Draw out a rough plan on paper and use stick figures and primitive shapes after you create a script, shot list, and storyboard if needed. Here's my production workflows tips document. I've been taking notes from this book on how to animate for beginners by Bloop Animations and online research. For this project I used grease pencil, but you can use objects like spheres and cubes, give them a name and material to figure out the rough timing and spacing for your shots, but use primitives for the scene, the bouncy ball, references, AI storyboard websites, and your own experience. Figure out the scene layout with timing and spacing. Start with the fundamentals if you are just starting and work your way up, but I will point you in the direction I took in this video and give some tips. For instance, you are supposed to have the same number of frames on each side of your arc, and it's supposed to be more parabolic in most cases as life moves and arcs for one of your principles of animation. You also want to stay organized in your outliner, like I got my scene layers, text, animatable objects, the multi-balls themselves, linked in, lights, portals, all this stuff in its own collections for ease of use whenever I need to look at something. The longer your animation is, the more work you have to do, and don't do anything too difficult for yourself. Find a challenge level that you can overcome. Also know how to link in a rig versus it being local. Before I show how I animate, I will show the footsteps I have taken to get to where I am today, and that is with the Animation Bootcamp course from CG Cookie. This is not an ad, but I can promote this as Wayne, my mentor, is very patient with you and make sure you get the fundamentals, as this is crucial for being a good animator to learn to see animation and all. Here you'll learn the fundamentals such as timing and spacing, squash and stretch, some principles of animation, the character ball, and eventually making a full robot character walk cycle. Takes dedication, practice, patience, and a lot of trial and error, usually 2 to 4 resubmissions with each project for me, but you get great instructor feedback, so use the critiques to grow, better you, take notes from the critiques and the video lessons to learn and be better. Here is my last year's progression. It might take you only 3 months, but it could also take you a year, like me, but if I can do it with an apartment to take care of and a 10 to 12 hour day job, then so can you if you love what you do. I started 3D in 2022 with Blender Guru's donut tutorial and other online material from YouTube. Learning the software itself as well, and CG Cookie has a course for that. If you go over to the Blender Basics right on the top, it'll take you to the 4.0 introduction, which is the version I am using, and you can start here if you are a true beginner. Okay, for quick tips, I like to have Simplify on, which is somewhere in your properties panel, smoother animation playback. And before I start, if I go into pose mode with this guy, for example, you can hit the minus key on the end panel on the X lock to swap the control easy. Use the auto key when you are animating and then turn it off when you are done. Actually start with the action editor by going into the dope sheet and go to the action editor. And I can view the summary, and if I uncheck this, then you can see all of this data. And if I bring back up the timeline, for the keying set, I first set it to hold character here. Then with everything selected, I push I, and that will give me all the data on your character for your action editor. And then I switch the keying set back to available, so that way whatever I'm working on will only get animated and not anything else. I like to work with the action editor as it shows the controllers for each character only versus dope sheet that shows every character in the scene, and you can click the arrow to have only your selected controller shown. So I click this arrow, and then if I go back to the animation for a second, then I can just like click on the body, only see the body. I can just click on the top and only see the top. It's also easy to adjust your timing, seeing all the keyframes lined up. If I scroll out here, then you can see if like one of these keyframes is out of whack with your timing, then you just adjust it and be good to go from there. You can select all the animation data with the one of the bracket hotkeys, either to the right or to the left of the playhead. It's usually a good idea to have about 10 seconds of stillness before your animation starts, so people can get an idea of what your scene is about. And it's a good idea to name your action data as well. You can set up your workflow to always have your animation tab ready to go when you open up Blender, like to have the frames always play when you render your animation for your mentor, and to always have like the simplify button on, have your motion path set up for your quick favorites, and just be good to go for every time that you open up your Blender file. Okay, for the first pass, work on the body and top control at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and select this button over here, calculate, and that will work for me. So this is the motion paths for my body control. As you can see, this is after the cleanup, but I will showcase in a bit of what it looks like before. It's normally a good idea to have some anticipation before a jump, so I have them loop with the top control, but you can go first into the squash and then the stretch and then the loop. Don't make the loop perfect, just get some data in first for your first time around. The loop might be more of a triangle shape at first, but that's okay, just get your animation data in there, and you can see this is one of the loops. So I animated that point, that point, that point, and that point, and then it'll take off to do your jumps. So again, animating the body and the squash and stretch control at the same time. Do a rough pass for your first pass only. You can have your top control overshoot with another loop if it has good momentum from your arcs before coming to a stop. So if you got a few good jumps here, you can have an overshoot for your final leap there and have before it comes to a rest like that. So it goes in for the last jump here, and then it goes forward, and then it comes back on itself from the momentum. Remember that a ball normally loses energy over time, so make your arcs smaller and smaller each bounce. Eyeball your spacing for the first time around. So yeah, here the first two bounces are about the same, and then it slowly loses more, a little bit more than half of the momentum after each bounce. Think where the path of action is going to be, adjust your top control left or right accordingly. You also don't want everything to have the same timing, make an area faster and one slower where it makes sense. So if I go to the start here, I think I have it speed up pretty quick and then slow down at that point. So if I speed it up here to try and avoid it from getting squashed from the pipe, and then I'll slow it down like it's been exhausted or something, and can do and then can have a little bit of a break here before it decides what to do next to get to this jump. So break up your timing and spacing, don't make everything the same, make things fast or slow where they make sense. Don't forget you keyframe the body in the same spot for 3 frames on the ground with squash and stretch, and sometimes it's a 2 frame or 1 frame ground contact depending on your arc jump height. Squash on the ground and stretch in the air. So here is an example of that. So we got the loop going, we got the jump, and then 1 ground contact frame, 2 ground contact frame, 3 ground contact frame for your body, and then you can animate the squash and the stretch. So you're stretching in the air, squashing the ground, stretching in the air, and then as these arcs get smaller, like here is going to be a 2 frame. So you stretch there, squash, and just go into a 1 frame next after getting smaller, and that is that. Try out experiments if you are unsure how to tackle something like gearing up for a big bounce on the 3rd layer. Okay, so here I have the top control going down some, then up some, then down some more, then up some more for a couple times before going into this. And this is when it would be okay to pull up the graph editor, even though this is your first pass, and kind of massage the controls a little bit to get an idea of how your animation is going to look for your first pass. If your ball is going to jump straight up and down in the air and with the spin, focus on the translation first and then your spin, as another example. Here's an example of motion curves before and after cleanup for your body and squash control. Remember, you have to keep control of the top, middle, and bottom spacing of the ball. You're not worried about it being perfect yet, you're just worried about getting your keyframes in there until the shot is done. Don't get slowed down in the first pass. It's a good idea to do your second pass with a brand new day. Give yourself breaks during each pass. Alright, next pass is to fine tune your animation with the graph editor instead of using your motion paths again. Let's go in the graph editor, go in the pose mode, and if I hit the home key, then you can kind of more clearly see this. I have multiple monitors, so I actually like to put the graph editor on its own monitor. But here you can see the same pass, like the motion pass in your graph editor. This is where you fine tune your controls more. Again, if you're a brand new beginner, it's recommended you understand the fundamentals, go through the courses, and then you'll understand this a lot more. But yeah, fix your ups and downs with the Z lock, as well as the horizontal with the X. So this is your horizontal with the X, the left to right movement in your animation, and this is the up and down with the bounces and stuff. And a cool little trick, say you want to view your timing and spacing easier, just bring your ball back to the default position, hide your X location with the check mark, and then it'll stay in its top, and then it'll stay in its position, and then you can view the timing and spacing a lot easier without losing your data. Make sure your ball is in the default position, hide your X and Z with the arrows, and then you got your animation back to this a simple vanilla up and down bounce if you want to view your timing and spacing that way as well. with all your data still in play. And then when you're ready, you can turn everything back on, and again, still have all your data in play. But yeah, is your spacing too high, too low? Is your animation too fast, too slow? Momentum flowing through? Like here's another example, going back to this first one, of slow to fast spacing for your drop down here. So I would first animate this point and the 442 and the 448 keyframe. I would first animate that and then pretty much leave it alone until the second pass. But for the second pass, I would then come in with the graph editor and fine tune it, make it look like this with this kind of shape here, and to try and get it as flat as I could with the ramp. But yeah, first it would be slow, so I have some more keyframes in here, and then I'll spread out the spacing to make it go fast, because as you roll down a ramp you get faster. So that is that example there. And it goes through the portal here. If you want to know how I looped this animation data, I have made another video dedicated for that and some other cool looping tricks, so looping, copy, and pasting tricks, so check out that video as well. If you don't have your own monitor to view your animation as a whole, you can hit the normalize button to view everything in a 1:1 range, and then uncheck it when you are done. But yeah, learning to see animation will take a long time. Animation is hard but rewarding. I started animating fully with my mentor last year, and I'm just now understanding the bouncing ball of a squash and stretch. But yeah, make 2 or 3 passes at least until your animation starts to look the same, then get advice from your mentor or people with experience. Take your notes by the 3rd pass on what is needed to fix and tackle them one at a time. Learn on how to improve and learn from your mistakes. Notes and advice from others help me. It is a lot to take in and can be overwhelming, but break it up into manageable steps. Create goals for weeks, months, and years to stay on track. I use this free note app for PC called Sticky Notes, where you can have endless notes on top of your PC. Reward yourself now and again. For CG Cookie is a great place to start learning animation. Character ball video example 11 is what I use a lot to refer back to once I worked my way up from lessons back in 2023 with the Bootcamp animation course. Much more pro advice given in that course and in all of his videos than this quick overview. At the end of the day, learn as much as you can about animation and just start. If you enjoy it, you will be great at it one day and do the cool stuff you want with it, even if it's 10 years from now. But also enjoy the fundamentals with fun projects like my time portals about a bouncing ball. Know what your difficulty levels are for learning animation and slowly increase them. Don't stay comfortable for too long or you could get bored and give up, but don't go too difficult or you could get frustrated and give up. Start with learning the 3D software itself and then animation. It took me a year in 2022 just on the 3D software. Take the CG Cookie course for beginners if you're a true beginner. Course link below, as well as for the animation course. Do the Blender Guru Donut tutorial as well, and also some more cheesy therapy advice. It's all the stuff you hear about: eating better, stretching, working out in some way, flossing, smiling when down, sleeping enough, and always staying busy is all connected to improve your mindset, to focus and learn more in your hobby. And that's been slowly changing my mindset over time, making these changes little by little, and I believe that you can make these changes too. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Bye.